You have your name on that.
Yo, I did not. You are wild.
I know.
I am so honored to be doing this interview with you, speaking with you. You are extraordinary. You're an inspiration to many, especially young Black girls. You are an author, an activist, a voice for the voiceless. You speak up for the marginalized. You are now to date the youngest member on the Forbes of 30 under 30. That's insane.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What? And so obviously we all know as well is that what you're really known for is you're the founder of 1,000 Black Girl Books, the campaign. Can you give me the impetus and the why behind starting that campaign?
So I started 1,000 Black Girl Books. And first, thank you for all your kind words. I really, really appreciate that.
Yes.
But I started the campaign when I was 10 years old because I've grown up and as an only child was always a very ferocious reader. And I found that as a kid that used to be super shy and had struggle articulating myself and my experiences, books gave me the words to know who I was and also to know who I could become. So reading stories and experiences of Black women and girls outside of the traditional like oppression narratives of Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks as like the only heroes and contributors to Black women in history, I was exposed to Angela Davis, to Madam C.J. Walker, Naomi Campbell, even like SZA, having access to like see these music, like these artists and beautiful women like Lauryn Hill in my homes and in my my community circles. I noticed that in my 5th grade classroom, even going to a very solid public school and being in a diverse affluent school district, I did not see Black girls represented in the books that we were assigned in school. Yeah. And for a lot of people, and especially in our neighborhood, it's like parents seem like they would have the most, they should or would have the autonomy over what kids read. But we know that public education is a really important sort of compass as what like towards what this country focuses on and the histories that we show light to. So when as a Black girl, to only see yourself being told as Harriet Tubman or as Rosa Parks or Bessie Coleman can really limit your idea of what you're capable of. And because I have the resources outside of my home to see myself, it should not mean that I deserve to be more confident or deserve to know who I am more than any other Black girl in my classroom. And that as a student, I have a right to see myself and to understand the full history of the world that I'm living in. So I didn't have all the words for that at the time. I'm explaining it very well now, but the conversation started at a diner over pancakes with my mom in 2015. I was 10 and I told her that I was sick of reading about white boys and their dogs. That was how that, and now that I explained it very beautifully now, but that was the impetus, that was the emotion and the frustration. And she encouraged me to do something about it, to extend beyond myself and beyond my home library, and to realize that there were hundreds, if not thousands or millions of Black girls and people of color and marginalized people who don't see themselves. And how does that affect us and the way we're able to articulate our experiences and also fight back and know that we can change the world if we don't see the change makers and don't see ourselves. So to date, I have collected 15,000 books and have a free online resource guide, along with a book of my own published in 2018 called Marley Dias Gets It Done and So Can You, which is about this story and how parents and educators and caregivers can play a role in helping their kids make change.
Yeah. And so beautiful. I think what I would like to do here is dig a little bit deeper. And so 2015, you were 10 years old, you were at the diner with your mom, and you get this idea. I always believe that in order for us to find our purpose, we become the solution to a problem. And I feel like that is a part of what you have done and what you're walking into. But being a 10-year-old girl, knowing that this is something that you were called to do, this is a part of the purpose on your life, how did you know that you were capable of doing it? How did you know that you were enough? How did you grab onto the courage to be able to walk out this dream? Because a lot of us, and even adults ourselves, have this dream, have this vision, but have a hard time to actually putting action to it because of maybe the fear or the doubt or all those other things. So how did you pick that up with so much confidence and walk it out at 10 years old?
I love this question so much. And I'm so happy that you asked this because it gives me such a great opportunity to hype up my mom. And I know that she's going to watch this and be so happy because I'm going to walk you through her parenting strategies and her life strategies and how much they stuck with me. So shout out, mommy. I love you when you watch this.
Oh, I love this.
So essentially, in many ways, I was trained to do this work. And it is not in the sense of I was like, anything I say or think about 1000 Black Girl Books, these ideas, this experience, it has all come from me. But my mom, and I respect and love her so much for the training that she provided me, both as my mother and also as the founder of a nonprofit called the Grassroots Community Foundation. So in 2010, my mom, who's been longtime close family friends with Black Thought of the Roots, he had a daughter, and that was the same age as me, and they both wanted to do something to help their Black women, Black young girls who are growing up in predominantly white spaces, be able to find ways to learn more about their Blackness, to protect and understand the multifacetedness of caring about one's health. So the economics of health, sexual health, physical health, mental health. And together they decided to start a nonprofit called the Grassroots Community Foundation. So I was like her little roadie at the time when she was starting this, like doing her little 501c3 forms and her grants. Like I remember watching my mom sort of build this work, but the core and the mission is to create a world where all girls grow up to be healthy women. And it started with this program called Super Camp, which was a leadership camp for Black girls that my mom ran from 2010 until about 2020, 2021. And in Super Camp, we would learn about the 4 principles of Ma'at. So Ma'at is ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, and the principles that they followed to like there was basically this idea that your soul should be as light as a feather. Like when you pass, that your soul is weighed with a feather and your soul, and they should be balanced. And that's how you would be able to indicate like your future and your destination in the afterlife. And even though it was definitely not a religious space, it was really important to tap into the histories of African culture, because as African Americans, we feel so distant from these histories and so distant from our ancestors. But tapping into ancestral power has been really important in my life, and I think is truly what has guided my purpose. And I've never spoken about this in like a public way, so I'm really happy to talk about it because it guides me so personally, and I often don't think about it, but it is such a unique experience I had going every summer, 4 weeks, eating super healthy, doing yoga, memorizing poems and speeches by Black authors. Like I knew I Had a Dream speech at 6 years old. I knew I'd read like all these Gwendolyn Brooks poems, like Malcolm X's speeches. Like we were exposed to the truth of our history, and it was followed by these 4 guiding principles. So truth was the first week. And truth is really important. And I give this, it's usually the advice that I give the most is related to this principle, is that we need to understand and break the myths about Black people in our country. Right. A lot of the times we don't necessarily feel or think about the impacts of enslavement on this world and recognize that Black people were stolen. The concept that Black people were stolen has been actually lost so fundamentally in our history and in our culture that we don't even recognize that like our existence in this country was not asked for, and that everything that has happened to us is a result of us being stolen from where we actually descend. So that is an idea that I was very aware of at 5 years old. And I was lucky enough to be in a community with other Black girls who were breaking these myths, who were learning about our nutrition, about our sexual health, about the shoulders that we stood on. And truth is a really important part to that. So that's why book banning is so important to me, is that we're losing these truths. So now there are people that are actually being mistaught about what happened and where we come from. And that's different than not being taught at all. That's trying to redirect and change these memories, to change what happened to our great grandfathers, great ancestors. Yep. And it hurts me so deeply because that's the fundamental part of what allows me to do this, was always knowing my truth, always knowing that my existence here and me as a Black woman and as a Black girl, to do anything was to be powerful in doing that thing. Like to do anything was to be powerful in doing that thing. So that was important to me. So I won't go through the other three as much, but it's order, balance, and reciprocity as well. And reciprocity is sort of, by the end of the camp experience, we would have to develop a social action project at age 10. And I was the first one that had to go because I was my mom. My mom made the camp. I'm her daughter. I had to come up with the project first. And when we got to reciprocity week, once you turned like of 10, like once you were 10 or coming into 5th grade, you started to be able to notice more social dynamics. You had to use your passion and your frustration to create a project. So Super Camp came up with the social action project, which then became 1000 Black Girl Books. So I had to do a social action project no matter what, as a part of being in Super Camp. And there are tens of other girls who have been a part of the Grassroots Community Foundation who have done projects that are not just like related to my cause. And I think it's really important to highlight that and to talk about it, because I rarely talk about it, but and I should more, is that my mom had really developed and created a space for Black girls to learn about themselves, to learn how to take care of themselves, to learn how to build community around taking care of themselves, and then to do something about it before they were even a teenager. Yeah. So I was in a space that was allowing me to do that. And I was incredibly privileged in that. But my mom wrote a book about it. So it's called Parent Like It Matters, How to Raise Joyful, Change-Making Girls. And I will plug it forever because I think that
she should.
Because it talks about her life, her experiences. I learned so much from her writing that book and being able to read that book. And it really breaks down the core of how she created this space and why it's so important for girls specifically to understand these truths, because we know that girls become women who give back to their communities, that women will always give back. So when we don't support women, we don't support communities.
Right. Oh, so beautiful. And I think that's just indicative of seed planting. Your mom was planting seeds all along, and she's able now to actually see the harvest. And it's so important that you knew who you were. You know who you are, and you knew who you were. So that's why when that call came, when that purpose came, when that thing came inside of you, you were able to answer it with courage because you knew who you were. And I think that that is such a beautiful tapestry of like showing the history of what you grew up in and why you're able to do what you do. So kudos to you and kudos to your mom, like truly.
Thank you.
Switching gears a bit. I know that one of the most laborious and arduous things that our generation and really Gen Z is facing is mental health, is really keeping a healthy mental life. And I know that you do a lot of work for that, for the youth with Green Ribbon Week. Can you give me some of the tools that you use to win the battles that come in your mind?
Yeah, I think that mental health has been so important to me on such a personal level, and it is to everybody. And I love that my work has allowed me to finally speak and to sort of come to terms with what I struggle with, and know that by helping myself, I help other people. So I have anxiety and depression. I have struggled with anxiety for a long time and depression as well, but depression didn't really start for me until after COVID, like in a more like intense way. I think that life has just changed. Like life is changing so fast for everybody. Having 2 to 3 years of like stagnation and then coming out so different is really hard. And for a teenage girl, I'm sure everybody already hates being a teenage girl to a certain extent. So it was a lot harder in those contexts. And the first thing for me is that I have to stop being so hard on myself, and I have to, and I'm working towards letting go of perfectionism, because I've way too long relied on my anxiety to fuel me, and my fear of the world being unequal, the world being worse, to make this work possible, and to make sleepless nights, or for doing my homework when I shouldn't be, or for not resting and traveling too much. And there's a lot of fear of the future for me, in a way that I feel very connected. As I've said, I feel very connected to my past, and I feel really connected to the shoulders that I stand on. So when things are bad in today's times, it feels disappointing to the seeds that have been planted for us and for our people. And that can hurt me. And it's a little bit too intense. I think about it too hard. And that's why I think that journaling, being present, and being grateful has been really, really important to me. That having gratitude for the experiences that I've had as a part of doing this work, as being fueled by so many Black women and girls and people of all experiences who value education and who value storytelling, has allowed me to recenter. Like when I think about how unique my life experience has been thus far already, just by following my passion, I remember and get the motivation to keep going. That like, I do this, and I study sociology and African American studies here at Harvard. And that I'm studying that not because I want to make money or have like a particular career. It's just because that's what fuels me. And that's how I think about the world. So trying to gear myself more towards my passions and what brings me joy, while also being grateful for what I've overcome and the people that support me and have encouraged me along the way, has really allowed me to stick through difficult times. Like I think it oftentimes we take for granted, like the way when people say that they're proud of us, or when people say that like what something you've done for them matters, is that it can feel like, oh, like it was no big deal. Like it's, I was so stressed about like this speech I gave or this essay I wrote or whatever. Like you get so caught up in how you felt about the experience that I was for so long unable to recognize that the way that my work was helping other people. Like
Yeah.
I felt so insular living in the same hometown, going to the same high school, being around the same people, that until I got to Harvard, I think I wasn't able to fully like see myself for the impact I was making on others, and to recognize that like not everybody does that, and not everybody does it at my age or with my experience or with my cause. And that makes me special, and that makes the people around me special, and that makes life special. Like I wasn't able to really have that gratitude for what I'm doing and what I've done, and being able to break the bubble of my hometown and break the bubble of COVID really helped me, both kind of the anxiety of my mistakes crashed down on me, but also a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation for what I've done. It's really cool. If I think about it for like 2 seconds, I'm like, oh, you did that. That's
It's
cool.
extraordinary, especially at your age. Take me, okay, I want to go a little bit deeper. Take me to a moment, even if it's probably in the past few weeks or a few months, where you did have that anxiety rise up a little bit, you know, whether if it was a test or if it was a speech, and walk me through in that moment how you walked out of it.
Well, I actually had a full, this weekend was like a full, like bad, rough, like mental health weekend for me. So basically last week I had the opportunity to go to an event with Versace for a Versace Icons dinner. I am so happy to now like be a part of like anything fashion related in the fashion world. It's been like such a great experience to be dressed by them and meet so many inspiring women through that experience. But I didn't get any sleep after that night. So I finished the event, then I hung out with my friends, because you always have to hang out with your friends after fun stuff, obviously. So then I got back to like the hotel. I got back to my hotel at 1, had a flight at 5:15 in the morning, got off the flight from New York to Boston, went to my 10:30 class, and then just kept going like the whole week, like never caught up on sleep. Like I probably slept like 6 hours a night. Like the whole rest of the night I had essays due, I had like class stuff, I have clubs here, I have social stuff that I was telling you about here, the like social responsibilities that I'm required to like go to, and there was just a lot on my plate. So on Wednesday night, I decided that I wanted to stay up late to actually just focus on my readings and do all my work and get all the stress and the noise off of my sort of radar. And I overslept for both of my classes the next day by staying up to try to catch up. So I woke up at like 11 a.m. having slept like through my first class and halfway through my second class. And I just cried like straight until like 6 p.m. Didn't get up, couldn't do anything, couldn't move, felt like such a failure, felt like I should have been taking care of myself the whole week. And I let this moment sort of just crash down on me. And it was bad. It was really bad. And in those moments, I have to call my therapist. I have to call my mom. I have to ask my like roommates and my friends to help get me food. Like my depression will fully make me not be able to take care of myself. And it makes not taking care of myself feel good or feel like better in the moment, which was really hard for me. Also living in Los Angeles by myself this summer for an internship sort of exposed me to like how deep my depression can go if I feel like I failed or disappointed myself or like haven't been taking care of myself. So like I had to fully like, I had an event I'm a part of the Black Arts Collective on campus, and we had a screening of They Clone Tyrone that night. So I went to the screening, and then I talked with a friend by the Charles River, beautiful river on campus, and I felt better, but I'm still working myself. I'm still like feeling that, you know, and I am pushing through, and the best way I can push through is this honestly helps me. My to-do list, writing down what I need to do, every single small little thing that I have to do for the day, whether it's brushing my teeth or making my bed or like fixing my eyebrows. Like I write down everything I have to do so I can just see what I have been doing and like not feel bad about like how the day went, because there's such an orientation already with my career and also at Harvard to be so productive that productivity can in many ways like take over my life. And also being a sociology major, I know it's because of capitalism and because of racism. So then when I have to do things, I'm like, this is so racist. Why are they making me do this? Why are they making me do this?
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like you overanalyze the thing that's happening and you ruin the whole thing. So I have to really be careful about focusing on the moment, focusing on what's going on, doing the small tasks and being proud of the small things. Because if I'm not proud of the small things, then I always let the big things just like crash down on me, and I can't be doing that. So yeah.
That's it right there. That was so good. Thank you for being honest and transparent and sharing that. Because, you know, I think I always say the greatest way to serve is to share your story. So thank you for that. In the work that you do, you are probably faced, or you are faced with a lot of resistance. You're an activist. You're on the front line for us. You do a lot of work for literacy, education, and now we are facing a huge book banning across America. I believe in all our humanity, when things are going well, when we are on a good stride, we plant a lot of seeds of hope and a lot of seeds through faith of feeling like, I'm going to create this initiative, I'm going to do this campaign, and I know it's going to be great. But then when the tides turn, a lot of times we can dig up those seeds with doubt because the tides are hitting us strong. And so my question to you is, you've planted this seed of 1,000 Black girls books. You've done all that you've done. You're an author on the front line for education, literacy, especially through books. How are you keeping your seeds planted with the things that you've already done and not allowing the resistance from the outside world and the book banning to literally dig up what you've already planted?
I'm leaning back into truth is what I've been trying to lean back into. I think that when it comes to book banning, and especially just being an 18-year-old activist as well, is that I have to recognize my place in this issue, that I'm on sort of the side of the people that are, I'm not the direct victim of this issue anymore. I don't attend public school. So my school curriculum at Harvard is now I'm in a very like elite space where I'm focused on like my free accessible education towards like whatever thing I'm interested in at this school. And I don't know what it's like to be a public school student in 2023 now. I'm not anymore. So for me, it's been leaning into the histories and experiences of what's been happening in schools. I recently bought a book, that yellow book right there, called Fugitive Pedagogy, which is about Carter G. Woodson and his techniques in the 1940s and 50s to try to maneuver under censorship rules in education. So I'm looking back. I'm trying to figure out how, in a period of time that that I don't know much about, like I don't really know what was happening for Black communities in the 30s and 40s and 50s. I'm looking back to figure out how they solved this issue. How did they get around this? Like, I've had to do some serious honing in on sort of the intellectual craft of activism, because book banning is a political and civil rights issue. And what I was dealing with before was more of an emotional and sort of social issue. Like the lack of diversity in children's books in 2015 was a result of, in many ways, a sort of unintentional, like an unintentional exclusion, where people were just like, oh, these are the books that we've always had. Like, we've always had Old Yeller. We've always had these sort of classic books. And now we've switched to the ideology of these classic books is the only ideology that we want in school. And we are making intentional, congressional, parental, like Board of Education, like all these sort of different frameworks and legal and social frameworks to overtly push an ideology that is not factual. Like, that is a very different shift from, oh, we forgot to include Black girl books. That's now, we don't ever want Black girl books. And Rosa Parks also was not fighting for racial justice. Like, we have now fully re-engineered education, and it's taken me aback for sure. And I do work with the National Education Association, which has really been allowing me to keep my seeds planted, interview authors. I get to talk to amazing authors like Jacqueline Woodson and Jason Reynolds and Tracy Baptiste, all banned book authors with at least 10 plus titles on most banned book lists across our country, and hear what they really think, because these are their stories as well. So to think with and understand the author perspective has been really important for me, because I think that where I'm currently situated in this issue does not put me in direct contact with book banning and these systems. So I'm really trying to study it and understand it, because I'm no longer in the place that I was when I started the campaign of being like, I'm in a public school classroom and I don't see myself. Now I'm at Harvard and I have access to the greatest and vastest libraries and some of the brightest minds in the world that when it comes to these social issues. So I'm trying to make that tuition last. I'm trying to really squeeze every drop I have out of it. Like, I'm in the library. I'm asking for recommendations. I'm telling my African American studies professor that this is an issue I actually care about. Like, I asked her, I'm taking a class on Jim Crow, and I asked her what book I should get for book banning, and she recommended Fugitive Pedagogy. So like, having access to a Harvard professor to tell you the best book to read on the history of book banning is such a great resource. And I think once I finish it will really, really help me in understanding this issue. So that's how I'm trying to keep my seeds planted, is taking it slow, knowing that we don't have term limits for we don't have term limits for Congress people. We don't have a lot, like we have the Supreme Court who does not give us like the same protections. Like, this is a delicate issue that's going to take a long time to unravel. So let me try to learn and take these next 3 years to really just hone in on it and understand who are the thinkers and the players in this issue so that I can change it when I'm 35, if I, decide to step into any office of sort. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Okay. Lastly, as you're keeping these seeds planted, what can we do as a community to support you, support your vision, and what can you implore us to do to make differences in our spheres?
I think for any person that has kids in their life, whether it's an educator, auntie, whatever it might be, caregiver, ask kids questions, educate them on these issues, try to be that voice and that form of historic preservation for kids. Show, like, instead of what they might see on their phones or in headlines or on the radio, challenge these narratives, ask them questions about what they're understanding and how they're thinking about the world around them. There's a lot of things going on right now, politically and socially, and kids take these things in spheres that aren't always around parents. Especially now, I could only imagine like how kids younger than me have more access to technology and less sort of vocabulary and understanding for what they're consuming. So be that consumer guide, be that support, let kids take things in, but also guide them as they take things in, because it really sticks with you at a young age. And also for adults, know that there's so much for you to learn from them as well. So encouraging intergenerational exchange is a great daily practice for adults and young people. And for my work in particular, you can purchase Marley Dias Gets It Done, and so can you, for the kids in your life who love whether bookworms or not. There's a bunch of pictures, there's stories, tidbits, book recommendations, a lot about my life and how this campaign came to work. And for parents of daughters, or if anybody has a daughter in their life, Parent Like It Matters by my mom, Dr. Janice Johnson Dias, shout out mommy, has an amazing book on parenting and how this work came to be from her side of things, which is honestly the more interesting side if you think about it. So yeah, that's how you can support me. And I think in other ways, buy banned books, as many as you want, give them out to people, start a banned book club, do what you have to do, because library students, teachers, and librarians are going to jail for the books that are being assigned in schools. They're actually going to jail. And I think that people don't understand how privileged we are in certain spheres to have access to these stories. So continue to promote them, be radical in that way, be ferocious about it, because these are real people's histories. These are families. These are cultural artifacts. This is print culture. This is our history and our world. And we need it more now than ever. So absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It was a true honor and a privilege, truly, just to be chatting with you. And I am cheering you on from near and afar. So yes, I got you, girl. Keep on keeping on and go get them. Period.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes. So good. Thank you.